Ladies and gentlemen, look like the census may not be completed in 2020. They are cutting the door to door knocking short for the US Census because they just can't do it, especially with so many states with rising cases of COVID 19. It is just not going to be possible for them to complete this. So this came out in NPR July 30th, 2020. Census door knocking cut a month short amid pressure to finish count. Well, I guess you won't have to worry about someone coming along and knocking on your door now. Let me go ahead and play this audio for you.
The Census Bureau decided to end its door-to-door head count 1 month early. Now, the Census Bureau doesn't knock on every door, but knocks on millions of them to make sure people are properly counted. Ending the count early, that part of the count, is a major change that is likely to severely undercount people of color, affecting political representation and federal funding for a decade, which is why Democrats are raising concerns that Republicans are seeking political advantage. NPR Census reporter Hansilo Wong broke this story. He's in New York. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
Talk us through this. What was supposed to happen?
What was supposed to be happening right now is essentially a slow build-up to the entire country. All the households that have not filled out a census form on their own yet would likely get a mass Census Bureau worker knocking on their door, trying to conduct a socially distanced interview just outside their home to collect that information. And that was supposed to continue through to the end of October. But I have spoken to 3 Census Bureau employees who learned about a change in the end date during internal meetings this week, and they told me that the new end date is not the end of October. It's been moved up to September 30th. That cuts short door knocking by 1 month.
Okay, so why would that mean that one racial group or one group of people would be less likely to be counted than another?
Because we're at a point of the census where the residents who've not been counted are not likely to participate in the census themselves, not likely to go online, call a phone number, or mail back a form, and they are only going to be counted very likely if someone comes to visit their door, which is a very tall order that there are a lot of folks, even before the pandemic, don't trust the government, don't trust strangers at their door. Now you have a pandemic, a lot of people trying to social distance. It's not clear if you can reach these folks, and they're very likely disproportionately to be people of color, renters, rural residents, historically undercounted groups. And when the Census Bureau cannot ultimately reach these groups through in-person interviews, the Bureau has to rely on other methods, including using, for example, statistical methods to try to impute information based on government records. And that way of imputing information is likely to overrepresent the white population and underrepresent historically undercounted populations, including people of color.
Hadn't some people in Congress actually been talking about giving the Census Bureau more time rather than less time because of the pandemic?
Yes, Democrats have been responding to requests put out by the Census Bureau back in April to extend the legal reporting deadlines for census results, and that would allow the Bureau to continue counting through October and then ultimately deliver the results in 2021. But Republicans have not moved forward with any bills. And in the latest relief proposal, there's no mention of extending census deadlines. So at this point, the Census Bureau has a looming deadline, December 31st, for new state population counts to be delivered to the president.
President Trump some months ago was saying, obviously, the census is going to need more time. Is there any sense of where the White House stands on giving it less time?
I've been asking that question of the White House press office, have not been getting an on-the-record response, and it's unclear. It's interesting. President Trump did say that Congress essentially didn't have a choice back in April, that this had to be done, and now we're at a point where nothing is being done, and the Census Bureau is stuck with just a few weeks left.
And a shorter deadline to count people face-to-face. NPR's Hansilo Wong, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, look like everything is falling apart in America, isn't it? So, I kind of thought it would be difficult for them to be out there during coronavirus, but So they're going to be ending their door-to-door on September 30th, according to what they're saying. So, yeah, I mean, this is a huge setback. I don't think since I've been alive I've ever seen them halt the census count, ever. You know, at least I never heard about them doing that in my lifetime. So, as you can hear, the Democratic Party was trying to give them more time, but it don't look like they're going to be able to do it. So they're saying about 4 out of 10 households nationwide still have not participated in the constitutionally mandated count of every person living in the US. And self response rates are even lower in many communities. This month, the Bureau began deploying door to door knockers to visit unresponsive homes in certain parts of the country. Door knocking efforts are expected to roll out nationwide August 11th, but by the 30th of September, it's ending, which means they're not really going to get that many people, done, especially you're talking about the whole country. It's unclear how much longer households can submit census responses on their own by going online, over the phone, and by mail. The Bureau website, which as recently as Thursday listed October 31st as the end date for self-response phase that began in March, now reads that phase will last until the end of the field collection, which is September 30th. Okay, so the condensed door knocking time frame increases the risk of leaving out many people of color, immigrants, and other members of historically undercounted groups from the number that are collected once a decade. So they're saying this will also affect the electoral college votes, an estimated 1.5 trillion a year in federal tax dollars for Medicare, Medicaid, and other public services. Former Census Bureau Director John Thompson warns that with less time, the Bureau would likely have to reduce the number of attempts door knockers would make to try to gather information in person. The agency may also have to rely more heavily on statistical methods. They said that might overrepresent the white population and underpopulate, what they call communities of color. Last minute schedule change to the largest, most expensive field operation for 2020 census comes as the Bureau has been publicly sending mixed messages about its plans for finishing the count. In April, Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, Trump appointee who oversees the Bureau, asked Congress to extend the legal deadlines for reporting census results because the Bureau said it needed extra time to complete the national head count during the coronavirus pandemic. So later the same day, President Trump suggested that Congress did not have a choice in approving the deadline extension in light of the pandemic. This is called an act of God, Trump said. This is called a situation that they have to give it. So far, only the Democrats have introduced legislation that would grant the Bureau request, and that's for more time. On Wednesday, the Bureau quietly updated its website and removed a key reference to October 31st. The previously announced end date for conducting follow-up visits, the Bureau website now says it is working to complete data collection as soon as possible, and it strives to comply with the law and statutory deadlines. We're concerned over what seems to be abandonment of the request for additional time that both the White House and the Census Bureau have already acknowledged is required for a full and accurate census, Vargas said in a statement. It is too late now for the Bureau to change course And the next COVID-19 relief legislation should reflect that reality. The White House, according to the Bureau's updated webpage, did ask for an additional $1 billion to fund accelerated efforts for completing count as quickly and safely as possible. In their proposal for relief aid released Monday, Republicans in Congress offered less than half of that amount with no deadline extension. So, ladies and gentlemen, y'all tell me what you think. Boy, coronavirus changes everything, don't it? Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.